Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday, everybody. We are live on our Facebook private group. We're going to have Louie Vazquez, our CPA, talking about the second stimulus act. We're going to share the good, bad, and ugly. So let's give it a second over here. He's going to be here in a second. Enjoy the Friday vibes over here from Ibiza in Westwood, California. Go West Side. Let me see. Okay, happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for joining. We're gonna start in a second over here. Enjoy the happy hour, the virtual happy hour, right? We're gonna have Louie Vazquez, our CPA. We're gonna go once again on the second COVID-19 stimulus act. Louie, are you ready?
Yeah, let me share. Go ahead and allow me to share the screen. I can get right into it.
I just made you the host. Okay. So you should be able to share your screen. Let me know if you have any issues and we can get this thing going. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Happy Friday. And please, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat. I'm watching the YouTube broadcast, the Facebook broadcast too. So let us know what's going on. Morning, everybody. Louie, all yours, my friend.
All right, guys, let's get into it. Second stimulus. Portals, a lot of banks are now open. If you're looking to get in on the action, I'm going to go over how to qualify for a second PPP loan if you've already received one, how the qualification requirements are going to be more flexible for you to hopefully easily apply for forgiveness. It's supposed to be easy, but unfortunately with all this, it is rather complex. And then what if I'm someone who I couldn't find a bank or I couldn't find a financial institution and I have not received a PPP loan and I'm a business owner? You're also eligible to still apply as well, and I'll go over how to do that. So the biggest thing that you'll want to go ahead and write down if you want is, sorry, we got this, is I have my assistant Erin's email here. She is going to be able to, if you'd like to email her, she'll be able to send this to you so you have this. So that way it's in your files, that way you have this to reference as you're going through the application process. So let's just dive right into it. And if we have questions during this, more than happy to answer them as we go through this. So second PPP loan, okay? If you've already received a PPP loan back in 2020, last year, okay? There's a second round available that you can potentially qualify for. The biggest thing that in order to qualify for a second PPP loan is there needs to be a quarter over quarter, year over year decrease in gross total income of at least 25%. So what you're gonna have to do this time around to figure out if I'm eligible for a second round of PPP loan is you need to compare your Q1 19 versus Q1 20, or your Q2 19 versus your Q2 20, or your Q3 20 versus your Q3 19, or Q4 19 versus Q4 20. You need to look at each quarter, quarter by quarter, 19 versus 20. In one of those quarters, you have to experience a decrease of 25% in total income, okay? That is the stipulation to qualify for a second PPP loan, okay? So here's an example here, okay?
Louie, sorry to cut you. Can you zoom in your screen just a little bit?
that better?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so we have to look at Q1 versus Q2, Q1 versus Q1 versus Q1 19 versus Q1 20, Q2 19 versus Q2 20, Q3 19 versus Q3 20. You need to look at your kind of P&L, whatever you have, gross commission income report that you have. You need to look at your numbers, 19 versus 20. There needs to be a 25% decrease in total income in order to qualify for a second PPP loan. So here's an example. Hey, Manny, is it possible that you can co-host this so that way, because there's people trying to get admitted, and you can keep those people coming in?
Don't let anybody in.
Oh, sorry.
It's live on the Facebook, so you can you don't need to do that. It's
Okay,
live
okay.
on
I won't worry about that. I won't worry about that.
Yes.
Okay. So here's an example. Let's say in Q2 2019, okay, Q2 2019, I had a quarter where I made $40,000 for that quarter, Q2 19. Well, in Q2 2020, okay, 2020 is when COVID hit, and when you know things have changed, right? Business was slower in Q2 2020, okay? It does not matter for the reason. All they're looking at is, did business decrease? So Q2 2019, I had gross total income of $40,000, but in Q2 2020, business was slower, okay? And I only had gross total income of $30,000. Well, right there, I have a decrease of $10,000, okay? And that's a 25% decrease in my total revenue year over year, quarter by quarter, okay? So based on this example right here, I am eligible for a second PPP loan, okay? So you have to look at that quarter over quarter. Did I experience a 25% decrease in my total income? If I did, okay, if I experienced a 25% decrease in one of those quarters, then I am eligible. If I did not experience a decrease in one of those quarters, if I, despite COVID and everything going on, I had a consistent year, a strong year, income did not go down, you are not eligible for a second PPP loan. So this second PPP loan, it's targeted towards people who have been impacted financially. That first PPP loan, it was just eligible for anyone. It was money for business owners to help them sustain the COVID period. This second one, it's targeted towards distressed business owners, okay? So in terms of applying for a second PPP loan, it's essentially going to be the same amount that you originally received. So if the first time around I received, $25,000, okay, and I can exhibit that I had a 25% quarter over quarter, year over year decrease, I'm going to get that $25,000 again, okay? So it's essentially the same amount that you received previously, all right? So that's the big thing to understand. There needs to be a 25% decrease quarter over quarter, year over year in revenue in order to qualify for a second PPP loan, okay? In terms of qualifying for forgiveness, want to clear some things up here for everyone. Manny, is this showing up pretty good on your end, or is it a little too small?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. If you have employees, okay, in order to qualify for forgiveness, at least 60% of the money that you receive will need to be spent on paying your self-employee and your other employees, at least 60%. And the remaining 40% is going to be able to use for covered overhead costs, rent, utilities, any PPP equipment. I think we spent like $250 on PPP equipment in our office, just with masks and all this other stuff that we had to buy, signs and everything like that. And then also disability insurance for any for your employees, okay? This is if you have employees, okay? At least 60% must be spent on payroll, okay? And that includes paying yourself. And the remaining 40% is able to be spent on rent, utilities, etc. Okay. If you do not have employees, you're a solo agent, solopreneur, the money that you receive, you don't have to really worry about this whole 60-40 split, okay? The money you receive, you're just able to take that money and use it at will. It's essentially viewed as compensation to pay yourself, okay? You don't have to worry about this whole 60 for payroll, because for the majority of people who are solopreneurs, no entity in place, you don't even have payroll to begin with. So the money that the government's giving you, they pretty much said, okay, you know, here's the money, you're going to use it for paying yourself, business overhead, etc., etc. You don't have to necessarily worry about this whole 60-40 split. It's just the money's used that you get, use it to pay yourself, cover your personal expenses, and then also use it for your business expenses. They're not going to be asking as many questions for those of us who don't have employees. It's just us as a solo agent, solopreneur, okay? They're going to be asking you more questions where you have to meet this whole 60-40 split when you have employees that you know, an S corporation with employees. That's when you have to be more on it in terms of the 60-40 split, okay? You have two options, okay? Once you get the money, you can either choose to spend it over 8 weeks, which is, you know, 8 weeks goes by very, very fast, or you can use up to 24 weeks. I would highly recommend the 24-week period, because 24 weeks, that's 6 months. That's plenty of time to spend the money correctly. That's plenty of time to talk with an accountant just to make sure that the money, I'm on track to spend it correctly. Originally there was an 8-week period, and that was a lot of stress, a lot of craziness. And, you know, I get a $50,000 PPP loan and I have 8 weeks to spend it correctly. That it was chaos. There's no other way to say it. This time around, they're allowing you up to 24 weeks to spend the money correctly. And I would highly recommend everyone utilize that 24-week cover period, because it's just a ton of time, a lot of flexibility in the time to use, and it gives you the ability to, you know, check with an accountant just to make sure everything is on pace, okay? Now, you're gonna need to file a forgiveness application, okay? There's not a whole lot of information yet on when this forgiveness application is going to be due. Understand that regardless, if the first round PPP, second round PPP, you need to file a forgiveness application in order to get the money forgiven. And there's been a ton of changes. I think we're on like the 5th or 6th or 7th, you know, PPP forgiveness application. They just released another one that's supposed to come out in the next 2 weeks. So they haven't really come out with when it's going to be due, but it's very likely once, if I choose the 24-week covered period, which is what I highly recommend, that 24 weeks, because it's plenty of time. It's going to be 6 months very likely after that 24 weeks that you have to submit the application through the banks, so that way the SBA can forgive your PPP loan, okay? So that's the big, these are the big, you know, things to take away with this second round, okay? We have to exhibit a 25% decrease quarter over quarter, year over year. You really need to sit down, look at your numbers in 2019. What were my numbers in 2019? Okay. Then I need to review my numbers for 2020. Sit down for 30 minutes. Okay. Chop that up. There's no need for a P&L here. Okay. It's just looking at your total income. That's all we're worried about. Okay. And figure out, was there a quarter that I had a 25% decrease in total sales? Okay. If I hit that number, if I hit that 25%, I qualify and I want to get that application back in. And I would use the same bank I used the last time, or the same financial institution. Actually, a lot of the financial institutions, they're already emailing people, letting them know, hey, you know, there's a second round Second round PPP, it's open. We're taking applications. There's better customer service. They've revamped the customer service. The first PPP was the Wild Wild West, okay? It was go out and find somewhere and get it and pray to God that you get it. And if you don't get it, now you have to find another place. This time around, it looks like the banks and the financial institutions, they've done a great job staffing up their customer service. So there's people to talk to this time around. But the biggest thing is I need to have quarter over quarter, year over year, 25% decrease, okay? Now, the last thing is, what if I'm someone that, for whatever reason, in 2020, I couldn't find a bank, I couldn't figure it out, I haven't received a PPP loan. So I'm someone that I'm a first timer, I want to apply for it. You're able to do that. You're able to do that, okay? The big thing is you need to have been in business as of February 2020. You need to have been in business as of February 2020, okay? And what they're gonna do is, if you're looking to apply for the first time, okay, you need to look at your 2020 year, okay? And depending on how you're structured, there's a calculation that needs to be performed to figure out how much you're eligible for. So this is for people who have not applied for a PPP loan yet. You're a first timer, and let's take a look to see how it works. Okay, if I'm a solo agent, contractor, or if I just have a regular LLC, okay, I do not have an S corporation or a C corporation, okay, I'm just a 1099 contractor essentially, all right? You need to put together some sort of P&L, okay? So you need to sit down and put together some sort of P&L for your 2020, okay? So here's an example here, all right? Let's say for 2020, I had total gross income of $75,000. You can get this from your 1099 if you've received it already, or from your gross commission income report that Keller Williams provides you with. And then you need to put together your tax deductible expenses, okay? Cell phone, meals, mileage, office supplies, dues and subscription, advertising, transaction coordinator, accounting, open house. Put something together, okay? So let's say I made $75,000 and I put together some sort of P&L, and total expenses that are tax deductible comes out to $25,975, okay? So I had total gross income of $75,000. I spent $25,975 on tax deductible expenses. My taxable profit is $49,000. That's the big number that you need to identify. What is my taxable profit, okay? Because then once I have this taxable profit number, I divide it by 12, okay? And that gives me my monthly average take-home pay of $4,085 per month for 2020, okay? So I made for the year after all expenses, $49,000 divided by 12. That means on average, I was making $4,000 per month. You then take this 4,085 and you multiply it by 2.5 or 250%. And this gives you the PPP qualification amount that you qualify for. You would be eligible for $10,214. And again, as a sole proprietor, no legal entity, no employees, this $10,214, the government gives it to you, and you are able to spend it at will. They don't care about this whole 60% for payroll, 40% for rent, utilities, etc. This $10,214, that's your money to spend however you please, to pay for yourself, pay for business expenses. They're not looking into how you're spending it. And as long as you spend it within a 24-week period, it will be forgiven. So this is the calculation on how to do it if you're a first timer looking to get a PPP loan based off of your 2020, okay? Now, if I'm someone that is a if I'm someone that is with an S corporation or a C corporation, I have a little bit of a typo here. Let me edit this real fast. This should be 2020 payroll. So what you're going to need to look at is you're going to need to look at your 2020 payroll. If I'm someone with an S corporation, a C corporation, or an LLC taxed as an S corporation or a C corporation. So I've graduated from a solo preneur, no legal entity. I've graduated into the legal entity structure of my business. Usually people who are netting about $100,000 a year, that's when you really want to look into that S corporation. Okay, so what you need to look at is how much did I pay myself in payroll for 2020. Okay, so based off of my 2020 payroll, let's say I paid myself $55,000. You're going to get this from your payroll tax returns, your W-2s. Okay, that's what they're looking at. What was your total payroll for 2020? Okay, so let's say I'm the only person on payroll. I paid myself a salary of $55,000. Okay, so you take that $55,000 and you're going to divide it by 12, and that gives you your average monthly payroll cost, which would be $4,583. Okay, so I paid myself $55,000 over the year. On average, that's $4,583. I then take this 4,583 and I multiply it by 2.5. Okay, and that gives me my PPP loan qualification amount. I would be eligible for a PPP loan of $11,458.33. So that's how, there's two different calculations, and it's all a matter of how you're structured. Okay, if I'm structured, and this is my first time around, if I'm structured as a solo agent, no legal entity, or if I just have a regular LLC, you got to put together a P&L, okay, and figure out what that net taxable profit is for the year. Divide that by 12. That gives me my average monthly take-home pay, and then I take this 4,085, which is this number, divided by 12, and I multiply it by 2.5, and it gives me my PPP qualification amount of $10,214. If I'm someone that's graduated to an S corporation, C corporation, how much money did I pay myself in 2020? Okay, and you take the total payroll amount that you paid yourself. If you have additional employees, then that also gets factored in. Total payroll for the year, I take this, assuming it's $55,000, I take that divided by 12, and then I multiply that by 2.5, and that gives me my PPP qualification amount. In the calculation for payroll, independent contractors are not included. So if you have any independent contractors, those are not employees, they're contractors. They are not factored in. It's only people that you formally pay through payroll, which is employees, okay? And understand that if I have an S corporation and I did not pay myself anything through payroll, then you do not qualify for a PPP loan. You have to have money paid through payroll if you have an S corporation to qualify for a PPP loan. And then finally, if your bank is giving you problems, we've had a lot of success with people using online banks, PayPal, Cabbage, QuickBooks Online, Fundera. They have been awesome. They have been awesome. But again, a lot of the banks this time around have revamped their staff, and the customer service, from what we're hearing from our clients, is way better this time around applying for the second PPP loan than it was the first time around. So if this is a great little handout, you guys, I would encourage you guys, again, to just take my assistance. Erin, unfortunately, Jocelyn, her whole roommates, they're all infected with COVID. She's the only one that's not with COVID, because and so she's on a her 10-day quarantine, so she's not around for the next couple of days. But Erin's in the office. Email her. She'll send this to you, and this is a great guide as you're going through the application process, either for your first time for the PPP loan, or if you're trying to get in on the second round because you have been impacted and have experienced that 25% decrease in revenue. Great guide to help you going through it. Okay, happy to answer any questions, Manny, that have come up.
First of all, awesome presentation. Short and sweet, like always. You know, in 20 minutes, you pretty much summed up, you know, how to go about everything, and you almost answer all the questions. However, I'm going to address them to you as they came in, just to make sure the people are understanding, you know, what they ask and what have you. So first question for you, Louie. If a business received an EIDL loan in 2020, could they still qualify for the PPP loan?
Yes. That is no problem. No problem. So
okay.
You'll still want to get it. You'll still so if you got an EIDL loan, if you've already received a PPP loan and you experience that 25% decrease, you're eligible to go for another loan. And then if it's your first time, you're still eligible to go apply for it for the first time as well. So don't let getting an EIDL grant prohibit you, or an EIDL loan, from applying again if you meet the qualifications of that 25% quarter over quarter, year over year decrease, or if it's your first time around.
Okay, and I think you actually answered another question. We'll explain this one. Another question, you did cover that. Is the second PPP only dependent on the year-on-year quarterly gross income comparison, or do annual numbers count too?
You could, if you wanted to. You can annualize it. You can just look at 2019 as a whole in relation to 2020 as a whole. And if there's a year-over-year whole decrease of 25%, then okay, you'd qualify. But there's, you know, you have a lot more flexibility, especially in the real estate professional, in the real estate profession, where income is so, you know, unpredictable. You know, you could have last year had 2019 or 2019, you could have had a huge quarter where you made $50,000, but then come around 2020, you made nothing, you know? So you could look at it annualized 2019 versus 2020 and see, did I just have a year over year decrease of 25%? But for the most, it's better to break it down quarter by quarter, because that's very likely where you're going to find that 25% decrease in gross sales.
Got it. Thank you. Where do we apply? You already covered that. Maybe you can go to that last slide that you showed the you know, those couple of like options, so you guys can go ahead and search it. You know, PayPal.
Yeah. If it's your second time around, I would really you're going to get priority service from the bank that you used prior. They're going to want to get you in again, because you got to remember, the banks are making money off of these loans. Okay. But if you are having trouble with your existing bank, maybe you have a big bank like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, then these alternative online banks, PayPal, Cabbage, QuickBooks Online, Fundera, lots of online financial institutions that they have systematized application processes. Someone said, like, with Cabbage, they use Cabbage the first time around, and then the second time around, they literally had their pre-approval within 25 minutes of submitting the application.
Right. Yeah. For S Corp PPP loan, can you use the K1 to show your income?
Okay, so you do not look at your K1. They're looking at your payroll, the wages that you paid yourself, not the K1 distributions. They're looking at salary. That's what they're focusing in on. Great question, though.
Yeah, very good question. So the segue to that is, can you apply for the PPP only if you're incorporated, LLC, S corp, or can you also do it as a 1099er?
Yeah. So if you have an S corp, C corp, or an LLC that is taxed as an S corp or a C corp, they're looking at payroll. That's what they're looking at.
Thank you.
If you are a regular, no entity yet, just because you haven't graduated to it yet or haven't gotten the advice, then you would need to utilize this formula here. You have to put together some sort of P&L, total income. Okay, you need to figure out what was my total income for 2020, and then put together what was my expenses. What are my expenses? Okay, so let's say I made $75,000 and I spent $26,000 on tax deductible expenses. You want to identify that taxable profit, $49,000 after my expenses. Okay, then you take this $49,000 and you divide it by 12, and it gives you your monthly average take-home pay, which is $4,085. Okay, then you multiply that by 2.5 or 250%, and that gives you your qualification amount for the PPP. So I think what people are going to want to do, very simple if you have a legal entity, S corporation, because it's purely off of your payroll reports. But if you do not, if you're a contractor, 1099 solo agent, you're going to definitely want us to email this to you so you can see this breakdown, so that way you know how to put it together. But you're going to have to sit down and put together a P&L. And probably it'd be really a good idea, once you have that P&L, to work with your accountant and get that tax return done too, your 2020 tax return, so you have that just in case the banks ask for that. But for the majority of banks, they're just asking for the P&L.
Yeah, well said. So here's another question, right? It's based off only on salaried income, right? Sorry, on payroll income. So can you still apply 2020 payroll if as a S corp, right? LLC or LLC that is filing as S corp for the 2020 tax year?
Yeah, they're going to go off of payroll.
Yeah, I'm saying if you didn't pay yourself payroll in 2020 and you didn't do your taxes yet for 2020, can you still go back and?
Yeah, so payroll isn't due. You still have time. Payroll is not due until 1/31. So you'll want to get with an accountant or a payroll company and say, hey, I want to show a salary so that way I can qualify for the PPP loan. So you still have time.
Okay, guys, and that's a key right there, and that's why those sessions are so important. And Louie, thanks again for your amazing wisdom and experiences. You can still apply, or you can still modify legally, right?
Right.
2020 payroll until the end of this month. So talk to the experts. Another question is, if you apply first round of a PPP, do you still need to show your over-year decline?
Yeah, if you've already received it and you're trying to get that second round, you need to show either your full 2019 versus 2020, a total year-over-year decrease of 25%, or break it down one quarter over a quarter-over-quarter decrease of 25%.
Got it.
That's the qualifying aspect of this second PPP. It's not open to everyone like it was the first time around. This second PPP loan, they're targeting distressed business owners, people who actually were impacted financially from COVID in 2020.
Yeah, makes sense. Can an agent be able to apply for a first-time PPP or PPP while receiving unemployment?
That's a good question. You want to be very careful with that, because so if you're receiving unemployment, okay, and you receive a PPP loan is considered compensation. So you would have to put down on your, if you're continuing to apply for unemployment, you would have to put down, I did receive, a $7,000, $10,000, $15,000 PPP loan, which is essentially compensation. You have to disclose that on your unemployment application. I believe every 2 weeks you're submitting an unemployment application to get your unemployment money. So I would be you want to make sure you disclose it. If you fail to disclose that you received PPP money, and then the unemployment department finds out later that, hey, we see that you received a PPP loan, but you were still getting unemployment, there could be a potential issue there with unemployment wanting money back. So just make sure if you're going to apply for the PPP loan while still getting unemployment, make sure you disclose that on that bi-weekly application where you're getting your unemployment benefits.
Yeah, and it comes down to talk to a CPA that will understand the timeline, because once again, you can still go back and do payroll. What if you were an individual January to August, but became an S Corp in September, question mark? Okay, I get that's the question pretty much.
That actually would open up an opportunity to get 2 PPP loans, because you would have, so let's say from January through August, I operate as essentially a sole proprietor, okay? So you would do from January through August, you would do this calculation. You would figure out, okay, from January through August, how much money did I make as a non-S corporation 1099 solo agent? What's my net income, okay? And then I would take that net income, divide it by 12, and then multiply it by 2.5. So you would apply as a non-S corporation, okay? And you would be eligible for something there. Then from August through essentially the end of the year, the next question is how much money did I make during that time frame? And now I want to show some payroll. I want to show payroll so that way I can also get a PPP loan as an S corporation. So essentially you're like 2 people during that year. You're a solo agent, and you would apply based off of this calculation that I have on the screen. Then from August through December, look at how much money I made, and is it worth it to show a salary so that I can also be eligible for a PPP loan through my S corporation as well. So that it presents some opportunity actually.
Yeah, and I posted again a few times the email for Aaron's, who's the admin for the Vazquez family CPA firm. So you can email her and ask a question. She's going to give you the copy of this form as well. Another question, it's kind of repeating a few times, so maybe it's just a bit more clarity. Maybe people just don't understand this. If you're a first-time applicant, do you need to show decrease in income?
No, first-time applications, that decrease that is irrelevant to you. The only people that the decrease comes into play are the second-time applicants. First-time applicants, you do not need to worry about it. You're just going to want to get this. You're going to want to get this PDF email to you. Look at page 4, and it walks you through based off of how you're structured to apply and potentially get approved for your first-time PPP loan.
Okay, good stuff. I'm just asking.
The only thing I can say that we've heard over this, the portal's just opened like 2 or 3 days ago, but we dealing with the amount of clients we have, we're getting a lot of people with feedback and stuff like that. It sounds like a lot of the banks are prioritizing right now the second applicants. It sounds like some of the banks are not, I think it was Bank of America, they're not accepting applications for first-time applications until next week. This week, they're completely focused on second applicants. So again, if you're running into issues with banks as a first-time applicant, look to alternative sources, PayPal, Cabbage, etc.
Okay, and one last question I see is any updates on the EIDL grants, those like up to 10,000?
Yeah, I believe they're reopening that. So it's you want to go ahead and go on there and apply for the EIDL grant. Understand that it's up to $10,000. In order to get that full $10,000, you have to have at least 10 employees. So if you're trying to apply for the EIDL grant and you're the only, you're a solo agent, you're the only person that you work for yourself, you're only going to get $1,000. Okay. But if you're someone with a team, you have an office manager, you have a couple people on, you have a team of 7, you would qualify for $7,000. So it's advertised as $10,000, but it's based off of how many employees are within your organization.
By positioned or by payroll?
Payroll.
Payroll. Okay,
Payroll.
guys, pay attention once again. Payroll is a key word. So if you have, on your team 5 agents and 3 assistants and the whole 1099s, that's not a payroll. So that's one of the advantages, by the way. And me and Louie are going to have an amazing session, I want to say next month, about how to structure yourself properly as a business owner in real estate, LLC, S-corp, all the goodies. You definitely want to learn about that. Last question. It's also a good question, Louie. Unless you have anything else to add, is since this is a loan, when and how is repayment structured?
So it starts off as a loan, okay? As long as, let me go back to this slide. This slide 3. It's as long as the money is spent correctly, it gets converted from a loan to a grant, meaning that you don't owe it back. So if you're someone that has employees and a legal entity in place, 60% of the money, at least 60% of it must be spent on payroll, and then the other 40% of it needs to be spent on utilities, covered overhead, rent, utilities, etc. And as long as the money is spent correctly, then you don't have to worry about paying it back, okay? And then if you are someone without a legal entity, the money you receive is just considered compensation. So it's automatically forgiven once you get the money, okay? They don't even care about how you spend it. So it's a PPP loan, but as long as you spend the money correctly, it gets converted to a grant and you don't have to worry about spending anything back, okay? I just highly recommend. It's very, very simple for those of you who are solo agents without a legal entity, because you get the money and the government doesn't really care about how you spend it. You just need to file the application for forgiveness once that comes out, and it will be forgiven 100%, okay? But those of you who have a team, have an S corporation, there's payroll, I cannot emphasize enough that you should really take advantage of that 24-week period, okay? Gives you 6 months. Work with an accountant. It doesn't necessarily have to be us, but work with someone that knows what they're talking about with this PPP loan, because we're gonna make a firm or accountant, we're gonna set you up success, so that way the money that you receive, we're guiding you on how to spend it correctly so that you don't owe anything back. Because if you don't spend the money correctly, you're someone with an S corporation with payroll, it will get converted to a loan. The loan is only 1%, but now you're in a situation where you're going to have to owe money back because you didn't spend it correctly. So if you have a legal entity with payroll, reach out to an accountant and get that consultation, so that way you're on the right track. But for those of you with no legal entity, you don't really have to worry about too much. Your biggest worry is getting the application in and getting funded, okay?
Louie, just take a quick look on the questions of the chat for a second.
Chat, okay.
See if I think you covered some of them, or whatever is relevant. In any case, once again, I put on the chat and on the Facebook Erin's email. So feel free to email her your questions and a copy of the presentation, so you can just dig deeper. We still have opportunity, and yeah, Louie.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna be doing another one of these I'm doing another one of these with the regional webinar with AJ. That's coming up again. Let me look at my calendar. That is coming up on Tuesday the 19th. So if you didn't catch the whole thing here, Tuesday the 19th, I'm gonna be on the regional Keller Williams with AJ and very likely Paul as well. Going over this again, so that way, you know, if you missed something, we'll be on there, so that way you can get the whole picture again.
Yeah, yeah. And
I can't emphasize enough, Manny. The banks that they've really revamped their customer service team. So, you know, a lot of the banks have really good customer service. You're going to be able to call in and talk to someone for help as you're going through this.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Louie, can't thank you enough as always. Good stuff. And you guys email Aaron if you have more questions. You can go back maybe in maybe 2 to 3 minutes from now to the videos on the KW Shares group and watch this video again from the beginning. And on the 19th, I think it's next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday at 9 a.m. most likely. That's the original with Paul Morris. I'm gonna have another session with Louie. Hey, good to see you. Happy Friday, and thanks for your help, Louie.
Get those applications in, guys.
You got it. Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.
Yeah. Happy Friday. Thank you for your time, and have a productive day.
Thanks a lot, Manny. Take care.
Thank you. Louis, if you can make me the host again.
Oh yeah. Participants. All right, you're the host now, Manny.
Yeah, brother.
Talk to you in a little bit, Manny. Have a good